Good day to Sir Asrul. My name is Michelle Bawangili and I am from Bachelor in English Language and Literature Studies. This is my presentation for Assignment 1, the 8 multiple intelligences. So just a brief introduction onto the topic. The 8 multiple intelligences was introduced by Howard Gardner in between early 1970s to late 1980s. And he theorized that there are competencies as intelligence as opposed to referring to intelligence as a single form. Because in his theory, he proposes 8 competencies, which will be shown in the next slide in an infographic. So these are the 8 intelligences put into graphics. So linguistics um, is characterized by analyzing information to create products out of oral and written language, such as speeches. Essentially, it's writing and speaking and anything that has to do with mastery of language. Logical mathematical intelligence is characterized by developing equations and proof, making calculations, and being able to comprehend abstract problems, which is tied into the sciences and mathematics. Next is spatial, yes, spatial intelligences, and it is the ability to visualize with the mind's eye, to recognize and manipulate large scale and fine-grained spatial images. Now, upon reading about this intelligence in the first place, it was a bit vague and ambiguous, but my understanding of this intelligence is that uh, it characterizes people who are able to comprehend images and scales. For example, there is a map. It also grouped under this intelligence are people who are good at uh, technical drawings, realistic things that require scales, which take into the consideration the size of real life objects and the such. Next is musical intelligence, which is the ability to produce, remember, and make meaning of different sound patterns. So essentially, it is making music, remembering what music sounds like, and also being able to execute it. Next is naturalist intelligence, and it's self-explanatory. It characterizes people who are good in dealing with matters related to nature and are very informative on nature. So they can identify and distinguish among different types of plants, animals, and weather formations that are found in the natural world. Bodily kinesthetic intelligences um, are represented by any kind of movement that is exerted by the body. It's not only limited to sports and dancing. In fact, it is also uh, in, it also includes people who are dexterous. That is why there is a ball of yarn and knitting needles there, because fundamentally bodily kinesthetic is the ability to use the body to create products or solve problems. And a key to this intelligence is controlled movements and the ability to skillfully handle objects. Interpersonal intelligence and intrapersonal intelligence are not to be confused with one another. Interpersonal is it deals with people who are outside of an individual. So it is the ability to recognize and understand other people's moods, desires, motivations, and intentions. So essentially, a person with interpersonal intelligence is able to socialize to in a much more advanced level in which they are able to lead, they're able to interact with all kinds of people, and they are very eloquent in how they interact with other people. And finally, intrapersonal intelligence is the ability to recognize one's own moods, desires, motivations, and intentions. So this understanding is directed within the individual itself, and it can an example would be the ability to self-reflect, and it's very tied into therapy as one of the examples. So for this assignment, I observed and analyzed a peer group of mine. There are 5 people in total, including myself. to see how many multiple intelligences are uh, closely related to our personalities. I'll start with myself. I'm doing an English literature degree. I am also an active athlete in MSU, and I am naturally a very sporty person. I would consider myself a good navigator in to a certain extent. For example, I am good at navigating um maps. I commute a lot, and something that is a little bit more unique to the rest of my peer group is that I have never been it's very rare for me to get lost in a mall. I somehow always know where a certain department is located, and predict I can sort of predict where certain shops might be located. For example, the top floor is usually where all the tech stuff is, and the lower ground floor is where the food would be. Well, although it's not that impressive. And I also dabble in journaling, where I record my experiences or when I'm frustrated, but also when I just feel like writing and writing about things that maybe other people wouldn't have the time of day to listen to. I would also like to add that I enjoy knitting and crocheting, so I consider myself quite dexterous. I'm also very good at handling tiny objects, like it's not an impressive skill, but like Legos, for example. I am much more um I am much more skilled with handling small puzzles compared to my peers. Next is Elsie. She is pursuing a degree in geography, and she has naturally um had the affinity for plants. She loves cats. She has four of them, and the earth. She actually maintains uh 5 or 6 potted plants of her own in her dormitory, and she is usually whenever she's away from campus, she would be helping out in her family garden, and she is very, very interested, or would I say, passionate about the formation of the earth. So she's very informed on rocks, on soils, if you will. Whenever she's traveling around, especially in Borneo, she's able to name what kind of rock formation is manifesting in a mountain that is nearby. Another important um fact fact in her personality is that she is physically strong. She's able to lift heavy things. In high school, mostly participated in field events such as throwing. She's also a very good jumper, so she has a lot of momentum and muscular strength. She is naturally muscular, and she has a um, much stronger build. And lastly, she has student leadership. In high school, she was the head prefect and a captain of her sports house, among many other leadership positions that um, she carried. In Form 6, she was also a part of the student council. Thirdly, we have Eleanor. She is pursuing a degree in animation, and she is artistically gifted. She is particularly good at sketching. Um, Obviously, it goes to say for somebody who's in animation, but she's very talented in sketching. They are not just random doodles; they are actually realistic sketches. And because of her program, she has to practice using scales and drawing according to realistic scales to replicate real life surroundings, which is needed in animation. She also loves plants and cats. She has owned about 9 cats throughout her entire lifetime. She is 23 years old. She's owned that many cats. She's naturally approachable to animals, and also she is very self-reflective. She is always practicing self-reflection to better understand um mental her mental world, which helped her in becoming a very mature and still becoming a mature adult. Alif is pursuing a degree in information technology, and he deals with numbers and theories very well. Before his IT degree, he actually worked in phone shops where he learned to repair. Not he didn't just sell phones, he also learned how to repair LED screens of smartphones. And now he does it for his friends casually whenever they need his help because it comes that easily to him now. And he also enjoys skateboarding. He's not he's not very athletic of a person, I would say. Uh, the games that he enjoys usually require specific movements from specific limbs only, as opposed to athletics. Like he enjoys darts and snooker, but one of the sports that he enjoys, which require movement from the entire body, is skateboarding. He has great balance and great coordination um with his limbs. And lastly, he practices mindfulness, which is very important for everybody, but he practices mindfulness in particular as a way to self-soothe himself and recover from traumatic events that he has experienced in um throughout his life. It's so that he doesn't project his traumatic experiences onto his friends, which makes him a very welcoming presence to be around. Lastly, we have Josephine. She is pursuing a degree in marketing, and she is very good at calculation and entrepreneurship. Uh, Throughout her childhood, her family has owned a restaurant, and during school break, she would be found not only helping in the kitchen, but behind the counter as well. So this makes her the go-to person to elect for treasury or budgeting whenever it comes to a project because she is far more experienced even in her teenage years at handling money. She's also quite thrifty, but this means that she's very conscious of how she spends her money and is very responsible in handling finance. But she is also very musically gifted. She is naturally talented at dancing. She can sing, she can play the piano. The way she dances, she has never been to a dancing class in her entire life, but from personal observation, I hope this doesn't sound too biased. She has this natural talent for isolating her her limbs, and has very fluid movements. They don't seem awkward. They're very light. She's very light on her feet, despite people describing her uh to be of a bigger build. She actually dances like she's on air. She's very talented. And lastly, she is extroverted. She's very good at communicating with people, which I think she picked up from the years of being around a business family, and is also essential to her future career with her marketing degree. Now that that's said and done, this is a table of the multiple intelligences that um we have in common. So here are the potential careers for each person based on their their most dominant MIs, and also uh partially influenced by other traits in their personality. So for myself, I potential career would be a potential career for myself would be an editor, copywriter, a journalist, or script writer. Generally, anything that's related to writing and creating something out of language. Eleanor would be an animator, a storyboard artist, video game designer, art director, or graphic designer. In the report, I described that she has always been uh, an avid consumer of media such as animation. She also plays video games, and she's very well informed on animated entertainment. Elsie would be an environmental scientist, an urban planner, environmental activist, geospatial analyst, climatologist, or working in emergency management. The reason why she has so many is because she has actually described to me the potential directions she would take with her geography degree. And she is especially passionate about urban planning. For one, because she is fascinated how how the way our governments plan our cities can greatly affect our functionality and so many other uh infrastructures and amenities that we need to carry out our uh daily tasks. Alif would be a programmer. He's actually studying to be a programmer. He is good at coding, a systems analyst, data analyst, software developer, and technical support specialist, which he does in his spare time whenever his friends are dealing with problems related to the digital devices. He is the first person they go to. And finally, Josephine would be a business administrator working in sales management, digital marketing, and event planner or working in human resources. Event planning, Josephine has actually been a friend of mine since high school, and we have been in committees together, and she has always been involved in event planning. So she not only has the experience of practicing it, she actually has the instincts to know what has to be included in events or in organizing anything that is official. But before I end this presentation, I would like to add a short conclusion that it is important for educational systems to incorporate the multiple intelligences in the syllabus so that students start or pupils will be able to get um some guidance into the direction that they may want to follow in the future, which is something that we can already see the in the way our education public education is formatted. For example, PT3 or PMR, it determines what stream we end up in Form 4 or 6, either science, commerce, or art stream. However, um, I personally feel like the Ministry of Education could advance this a little more instead of um, rigidly categorizing students into the three disciplines. I feel it is best if the government opened up more opportunities for students to experience a holistic a holistic education that opens that gives them the opportunity to experience uh things or learn things in a field that they were not assigned to. And that is the end of my presentation. Thank you very much.